Hi all, a warm welcome to all of you in the today's daily current affairs session on EduTap. My dear learners, I hope that all of you are healthy and preparing well for our upcoming exams. And when we talk about exams, the current affairs plays a very important part. And this is the reason that I am back with a very interesting session in which we will be discussing the state of foundational literacy and numeracy in India report. And this report is really very important from the exam point of view. So before starting the session, I want to add here, and I'm glad to announce that we are providing flat 50% off on our various courses. And my dear learners, this particular discount is only valid from 16th December to 19th of December 2021. And to avail this discount, you are required to use the code SINGLE. And with the help of this, you will be able to avail the discount of 50% off on our various courses, that is for RBI Grade B, SEBI Grade A, NABARD Grade A, PFRDA Grade A and other courses as well. So now I hope that this is very much clear, and now we are moving towards the session. Let's get started. And here is the topic that we are going to discuss in our today's session. That is the state of foundational literacy and numeracy in India. See, this particular report is really very important from the exam point of view. So now let's get into the details of the report and see that what exactly we are having with this report for our exam point of view. So my dear learners, whenever we cover the report, we always tell you that the very first dimension that you are required to cover when you are covering any report and index is the releasing body. So when we talk about this particular report, this report has been recently released by the Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister. What exactly this is? See, the Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister, it is an independent body which has been constituted to advise the government and especially the Prime Minister about the economic and related issues in our country. And when we talk about the composition of the Economic Advisory Council, here is the composition of the same, and you can go through it for the value addition. But one point that you are required to remember from here is that Dr. Bibek Debroy is the current chairman of the Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister. And my dear learners, when we talk about the maker of this particular report, that is which organization was responsible for the preparation of this report, then this particular organization was the Institute for Competitiveness. So my dear learners, I hope that this is very much clear, and both these names are really very important from the exam point of view. Now, why exactly this particular report has been released and what exactly this report tells us about, we are going to discuss this in much more detail. And now my dear learners, from here you can directly see here that this particular report highlights the importance of early education years in the overall development of a child. And apart from that, this report also highlights the role of well-planned early interventions such as National Education Policy and the Nipun Bharat guidelines. So my dear learners, why exactly the early education year is that much important, and why this report has been released? So my dear learners, this report tells us that a child needs to develop a solid foundational literacy and numeracy skills. So what exactly these skills are? These are basic reading, writing and mathematics skills. Okay. And my dear learners, apart from that, this report states that the foundational learning years encompasses of the preschool and elementary education. Now we are going to discuss that why the education during the foundational learning years are that much really important. See, first of all, a quality early childhood education is one of the fundamental right for every child. And my dear learners, during this particular foundational learning years, that is the age of below 10 years. Okay, when a child is below the age of 10 years, at that particular point, it is scientifically proven that the 90% of their brain develops during this particular age. And that is the reason that these foundational years are really very important from the learning outcomes point of view. And that's why, my dear learners, when we talk about the foundational learning years of the school, if a child falls behind during this particular period, it is going to negatively impact their learning outcomes throughout the life, and they are going to face a lot of issues. And that's why this particular report has been released. And now, when we talk about this particular report, this report is also having the index on the foundational literacy and numeracy. And my dear learners, this is one of the very initial and very first step towards finding out that what exactly are the findings and how exactly we can improve the early childhood years of the education. Okay. And now when we talk about the index on the foundational literacy and numeracy, this report states that this index establishes an understanding of the overall state of foundational learning across the children below 10 years in Indian states and union territories. And my dear learners, from here it is very much clear that this index indicates the education attained by children below the 10 years of their age. And when we talk about the different pillars which this index comprises of, so this index comprises of 5 pillars which comprise further 41 indicators. And when we talk about these pillars are educational infrastructure, access to education, basic health, learning outcomes, and governance. So these are the 5 pillars that you are required to remember from the exam point of view, on the basis of which this particular index analyzes the quality of education that these children are having during their foundational learning period. So my dear learners, apart from that, I want to add here that this report ranks the Indian states and union territories in 4 different categories. And what exactly these categories are? The first category is of the large states, second category is of the small states, third category is of the northeast states, and the fourth and the final category is about the union territories. So now whenever we cover any report and index, what we are required to cover? We are required to cover the rankings, that is the top performer of that particular index as well as the worst performer. So now we will be discussing the top performer and the worst performer in all these 4 categories. So when we talk about the foundational literacy and numeracy index in the large states, so my dear learners, here West Bengal has topped this particular category with a score of 59. And when we talk about the worst performer, then Bihar was the worst performer with a score of 37 on the 9th position. And now my dear learners, if still you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, kindly subscribe it and press the bell icon to receive all the latest updates of the courses and videos offered by us. And you can also join our Telegram channel to get the access to the PDF of these lectures. To join the Telegram channel, kindly click on the link given in the description below. Now, moving towards the top performing and worst performing states for the small states, then my dear learners, Kerala is the state which has topped this particular category with a score of 68. And if we talk about the worst performer, then Jharkhand was the worst performer in this particular category with a score of 45 on the 11th position. And now my dear learners, when we talk about the top performing state and the worst performing state among the northeastern states, then Mizoram was the state which has topped this particular category and Arunachal Pradesh was the worst performer. And when we talk about the union territories, then Lakshadweep was the top performer among the union territories and Ladakh was the worst performer in the union territories. So I hope that these rankings are very much clear to all of you. All you are required to remember from this particular part is the top performer and the worst performer from each and every category, that is from 4 different categories in which the index ranks the Indian states and union territories. So I hope that this particular part is very much clear to all of you. Now we are going to discuss some other important findings that this particular report is having for us. And now when we talk about other key highlights, this report states that some states may serve as the role models for others in the certain aspects. And for this, to explain this part, this report states that Kerala, for example, Kerala has the best performance among the small state, but still it can learn a lot from Andhra Pradesh, which has outperformed Kerala in the pillar of access to education. So that's how one state can be a learning model for the another state which has outperformed that particular state in that particular pillar. And now my dear learners, apart from that, when we talk about the pillar in which all the Indian states have performed worse, then this particular pillar was the governance pillar. See, this particular finding is once again a very important from the exam point of view. And when we talk about the states performing particularly worse in any pillar, then it was governance pillar, because in this pillar the national average was 28.05 and all the Indian states was having lower score than this particular part. Okay, sorry, more than half, over half of the states are having a score which was below that national average score of 28.05. So my dear learners, apart from that, this particular report also says that the issue of access to education is the one that demands prompt action on the part of the states, as this report states that the performance of the large states was very poor in this particular pillar, and while the northeastern states have performed very well for their superior performance in the pillar of access to education. So all these findings that we have mentioned here are really very important from the exam point of view. And my dear learners, that was all from this particular report, and all the important parts from this report have been discussed in a very comprehensive manner. And now I am sure that if a question is being asked in the exam from this particular report, you will be able to answer all the questions very successfully. And for more further practice, I'm having some practice questions for all of you. Let's discuss them one by one. So here, when we talk about the very first question, you can see that recently the Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister has recently released the report on the state of foundational literacy and numeracy. And now you are going to tell me the report has been prepared by which one of the following institutions, whether it was Institute for Competitiveness, Niti Aayog, CBSE, NGO Pratham, or none of the above. So as per our today's discussion, the right answer to this question is option A, that is Institute for Competitiveness. Moving towards the question number 2, we have the question number 2 is, which one of the following are the categories in which the Indian states and union territories have been ranked by the report? So how many categories? We have discussed that this report ranks Indian states and union territories in the 4 different categories, and these categories are large states, small states, northeast states, and union territories. So the right answer to this particular question will be option E, that is all of the above. So my dear learners, these were very basic questions which are based on these particular reports, and now I am having a homework question for all of you, and all of you are requested to answer these particular questions in the comment section below. And when we talk about the homework question, here you can see the very first question, and the question is, which one of the following states does not belong, which one of the following does not belong to the pillars of the index on the foundational literacy and numeracy? Here all these particular options are being given, so please tell me that which one of the following is the right answer to this particular question. And now when we talk about the homework question number 2, the homework question number 2 is being mentioned here, and before answering the question, kindly carefully read out that particular question very carefully, as you are required to understand that what exactly is the demand of this particular question. As the question asks, which one of the following statements are incorrect about the report on the state of foundational literacy and numeracy in India? So in order to answer this question, what you are required to do, you are required to analyze these 3 statements as per our today's discussion, and then tell me in the comment section below that what exactly is the right answer to this question. Do choose the right option among these 5 options that we have mentioned here. So my dear learners, that was all from the today's session. And when we talk about the star performers, then once again I am glad to see your participation in the comment section below. And all these people are the star performers. And who are these people? These are those people who have answered the question correctly, which we have asked as a homework question in the previous session. And if you also want your name to be mentioned here in the upcoming session, then do answer the homework questions in the comment section below. So my dear learners, that was all from our today's session, and I hope that today's session was very much useful and fruitful to all of you. And if you have liked the session, then please give a thumbs up in the comment section below. And if you are having any queries, then do drop us a mail at hello@edutap.co.in, and you can also call us at 814-620-7241. So my dear learners, thank you for joining us. Wish you all happy learning.